to the She Leads podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, CEO and founder of She Leads Media, a global media company dedicated to the advancement of women leaders and entrepreneurs worldwide. I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU and Rice University, where I teach on the topic of entrepreneurship. I'm a mom to two wonderful young men and married to my best friend from college. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women entrepreneurs and leaders. My hope is that these conversations and their advice will encourage you to put yourself out there and gain the visibility that you and all women deserve. We're all about stripping away the sugar-coated conversations and moving boldly in the direction of our magnificent dreams. For far too long, women have been conditioned to soften their words, modify their actions, and show up in the world to conform to outdated at best and harmful at worst cultural norms and ideals. Why? To keep those who are outside of the power structures from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence. This has prevented women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. The She Leads podcast is here to shine the light on all the incredible women, to encourage us to show up, speak up, and showcase the amazing work we do. Speak with confidence about the innovative and transformational thoughts that we have, and celebrate the positive impact that we are making in this world, both personally and professionally. So let's do this. Let's lead. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the She Leads podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the She Leads Live 2024 conference. It's our 10th anniversary, and we are welcoming women entrepreneurs and leaders to New York City on October 18th and 19th. And if you haven't gotten your ticket, make sure to get it now. So I'm so excited to welcome my next guest. Her name is Melissa Wallace, and she's from the Fierce Foundry. She actually founded the Fierce Foundry. Melissa has more than 25 years of marketing experience across so many different areas, B2B, consumer, and the creative agency world. She's focused on pioneering technologies and entertainment. And in 2023, Melissa launched Fierce Foundry. It's the first ever FemTech Venture studio designed to reduce and equalize the deficit in funding for female founders. I cannot wait to dive in and learn more about what we can all do to bring more women into the investment ecosystem. Welcome to the She Leads podcast, Melissa.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
Oh, we have so much to cover. There is just so much to cover, right? So the She Leads podcast is super focused on helping women entrepreneurs to grow and scale their businesses. And lately, I've been talking about how important it is to get past that $1 million mark, because when you do that in your business, you start to free up some cash that you can really use to make a difference. So talk to me, first of all, about you. How did you get here, and how did you decide that you wanted to start this venture studio that was going to help women get the investment money that we deserve? Let's say.
Yeah, very much deserve and need. I'm sure we'll dive into that. You know, throughout my career as a businesswoman, I definitely have had this side of me that has been a proponent for women in the workplace, whether it's, simply supporting a fellow employee in moments of need, specific to being a woman in the workplace, to, creating groups around digital marketing when it was so male dominated. As you know, early on, really didn't have a lot of women to go and ask questions and learn more about, to then going and working in tech startups and working with female engineers and realizing that they were very much alone and, didn't have support around them, and working to find them, support where we could. And so I've always had this sort of side of, okay, we got to keep an eye out for each other. And I launched a marketing agency specific for tech startups in 2018. And we were meeting lots of women, female founders, who were basically being told by investors that They wouldn't invest in them until they showed traction and momentum. And we hear that all the time, right?
Yep.
I would meet these women and they had prototypes. They had amazing products. They were incredibly mission driven and ready to go. They just needed the funding. There was no way that they were going to show traction on a prototype. They needed funding to build these products. And it was every week meeting another woman who was like, I have to hire you because of this. And we were like, you can't spend the last 100,000 you have in the bank, on marketing. You have to put that towards product. So my co-founder, Laura Majorano, and I started donating our time to these founders and bringing in other people who could donate their time as well so that we could bridge that gap, getting them to that investment stage so that they can eventually go on to build these products and services. So we built that into a nonprofit, a mentoring community called Fierce Founders. And we ran that for about 5 years. And last year, I asked the team if we could do more because I keep looking at the statistic of, 2% of global VC funding. I mean, it is absolutely astonishing to me. And I just watched a video that showed that it hasn't changed since 1994. So how can we impact that? And the venture studio model was something that our agency had been participating in, and I understood it in a way that could support female founders in a very different way than, accelerators and other programs out there were doing. And so we decided to figure out how we could build this model. And we also decided to focus on FemTech, which we define very broadly, product, services, technology that benefit women and the people in their lives or, people that they interact with every day. So it doesn't necessarily mean a medical technology or a medical product. And so FemTech, we know, mostly it's women coming up with solving problems that they're experiencing. And 80% of FemTech founders are female. So that's how we got there. And now our goal is to build these companies, bring them to market. And more importantly, along with kind of your, very clear message of getting to 1 million, we want these founders to exit. We want to help them exit in less than 7 years. Because for us, what happens, as for all of us, women and humanity, to be realistic here, when that founder exits, they're going to invest in more female founders. And that's what we want to propel.
That's the flywheel.
That is the flywheel. Yes.
I love this. I want to just take one little step back because this concept of a venture studio is something, it's even a new term for me. So can you talk a little bit about what is a venture studio and how does that differ from like an incubator or an accelerator program?
So yeah, there are not a lot of them out there. And really, it's only been in the last 5 years that they're starting to really grow in popularity. So a venture studio builds companies from idea to exit. So there's lots of different models out there. In fact, we decided we're going to stop looking at what the other models are and just think about how we want to build it, because the idea is we could create our own ideas, come up with our own ideas. And we have a research partner, Evolve Well, who is helping us look at what's out there, what's needed in the marketplace to come up with our own ideas. At the same time, we have founders who are early stage doctors who have been, in the NICU and have this amazing idea that they want to bring to market and they want to move into more of an entrepreneurial role coming to us, but they're very early stage. What we do is if the idea is right for the studio, we basically build that product with them through every stage of the process. We, at Fierce Foundry anyway, and I know other studio models do this, but we have a team of about 100 different coaches, contractors, and individual teams. So for example, we have 4 different dev teams that we can bring in to help through the development stage of the product. So we start at the idea stage, we build the product, we test the product, we do everything in each of the stages that help de-risk the investment and improve the likelihood of success as much as we can, all the way, down to the very end where we have exit specialists who will come in and make sure that we're thinking about that, as early as possible as well. So that's why it's different. So an incubator might do the first part of that. An accelerator might do the middle part of that. And what we hear from female founders is it doesn't work for them because they need the support at every stage, and they need it to be along a path that works for them and how they work. And so we're also taking that into consideration as well.
This is so fascinating on a million different levels. First, I love how you just described that, because the class that I teach at Rice University in the Jones online MBA program, we follow that process of disciplined entrepreneurship, right? Where you do your customer interviews, you test, you de-risk the company so that when you launch it, you know you're launching the right it, is how we talk about it. So I absolutely love this. Also, the fact that, it's a full life cycle of support for these experts, that they might have the expertise in the subject matter, but they don't necessarily have the entrepreneurial or business expertise, which is what you're providing. And I mean, I just think that this is so fascinating. And I did sort of read this incredible Medium article where you were interviewed, and you talk about how you want people to see what you're doing and take the model and do it too, because it's not just about you and how incredible your process is. Yes. But if more people can launch these venture studios, then the more people we can help.
Yes, exactly. We met with 2 women yesterday who are starting a very similar, they're 3 months in, and they're launching a venture studio model. It's a little bit different. It's not necessarily focused on femtech, but it is focused on female founders and products for women. And we're sharing all of our experiences in the last year with them and our resources. I mean, why not? Like, we're trying to get past 2% here of global funding. We need all hands on.
So I'm going to ask a very pointed question, because I just like to really educate people, right? The more that we know about how all of these things work, the better we can demystify it so that women aren't afraid to pitch investors and seek financing and seek help and all of that. How does a venture studio support these initiatives? Because with 100 people helping these businesses, that's time, right? And time is money. So how almost are the venture studios funded?
In many different ways. This was actually a challenge for me because I thought it was going to be really simple. We were just going to go and get $15 million somewhere. And, because everybody wants to be a part of this mission. Why not?
Right.
Not so much. So, and anybody who's listening, especially if you're an entrepreneur who's gone through the fundraising process, you know that you have to anticipate at least 100 interviews with VCs before you're really getting what you want or need. So the funding model for the studio can go a lot of different ways. The way that we're looking at it right now is we're basically launching what we're calling like proof of concept. So we started with a crowdfunding campaign on WeFunder. We also have a donation campaign that we're launching this week on I Fund Women, because people don't need anything other than to be a part of this, which I think is fantastic. And we're very, lucky to have that. The funds that we acquire through that, we're using to pay those individuals to provide these services. It's a combination of everything we just talked about, the services such as founder therapy, making sure that we're giving them added resources for learning. We're going to have an educational track that will be included in that. So, those are all elements that have to be taken into consideration as well, because again, it's all about the founder success, right? So we're going to, also incorporate other revenue channels that will help us in our own operating expenses in terms of like getting these companies off the ground and having some proof of concept. And our goal is to go back to family offices, VCs, angel investors to raise that capital investment that then will go into each of the individual companies. So that's the path we're taking. And, it's a very feminine focused path. We've been told it's, not the norm. And that's right, because I think that we can be incredibly efficient in how we do this initially. And I think we can show people what we're really able to do.
Yeah, it's almost meta, right? Where you're you are helping people get that proof of concept, and you also are trying to get that proof of concept so you could go back to help it. And that's that flywheel that you talk about. It's absolutely fascinating and completely logical. The way that you have described it, I think it's very easy to understand. It's just something that maybe hasn't necessarily been done like that in the past. But isn't that what innovation is all about? Right? We don't want to be doing things, especially as women. I talk about this all the time. It's like this thought experiment where, I teach entrepreneurship, and I often look at examples of successful businesses, right? Then you look at how those businesses were started, and they're based very much on a male model. And so here we are as women following a pattern that is really not benefiting us. And it's almost part of the problem. If we're trying to launch a company in the same way that an all-male founding team has launched a company, we're probably not going to get the same results because we have completely different mindsets, experiences, all of it. It's like one of the reasons that I think sometimes that women-led businesses aren't able to get past that $1 million mark, because we're trying to be something that we're not.
Yeah, we're squeezing ourselves into a model that wasn't designed for us. Right. And you're trying to replicate that. I can remember, back in, the early days of my career, going out with the men at the company and, drinking bourbons and smoking cigars because I thought this is how business is done.
Yeah.
Now, of course, granted, I don't smoke cigars anymore, but, the bourbon has stuck with me, which I'm appreciative of. But that's not how we do business like that. Why was I, and the other thing too is women, we all work in different ways, right? So I do feel like to a certain degree that male model, most men can fit right into that. But for us, we're all so incredibly different in how our lives are structured, who we might be a caregiver for or not. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, and the level of flexibility to create, we need a level of flexibility in what our model looks like for us.
100%. And we need to be starting these companies that are based on this new model. And that model has got to be profitable, right? Otherwise, no one's going to pay attention.
Yes. And I think that's an area where I I struggle sometimes because, I say this, and I have a lot of entrepreneur friends who say this too. It's like, if I could be doing this for free for the rest of my life, I would be completely happy.
Yeah.
But we have to think about things in terms of profitability. We have to think about that reality and the importance of doing that, making sure that we can do that with the flexibility. I firmly believe that we can do that and actually be even more profitable because we're thinking about it in the way that we work.
Yeah. Yeah. We just need these bold women businesses that are doing things in a different way so that we can say, yeah, that's it. And we don't necessarily, there are definitely, right? There's plenty of women-owned businesses that are incredibly successful. Of course, Spanx comes to mind, and Sarah Blakely, and this unicorn, incredible business and everything she's been able to accomplish. And now she's God bless her. Have you seen her new venture?
Yes.
The sneaker heels.
Yep.
God really bless her for jumping back into this.
Really interesting. I'm totally fine with just regular sneakers and regular. Go for it. Listen, I think, the more we mix it up and take those kinds of, incredible it's a statement, and, it's an opportunity for a new venture for her. One of the things that I tell younger women who do want to be entrepreneurs or early in their career is, save for your midlife retirement. So I was someone who I never really wanted to have kids. My career was literally like the thing I wanted the most. And kids were just not, it just wasn't a thought. And when I got married the second time in my 30s, I was like, okay, maybe I'll have kids now. And so I had my kids in my 40s. And I used, part of my retirement to take that time off.
Yeah.
And then I came back and I reinvented myself. And it was like, that's okay. Who said you have to, have one retirement in your life?
Yeah.
Take a mid retirement and, think about what works for you. It doesn't have to be the way everybody else is doing it or how it's been done before.
Yeah. And that's such a it's so easy to say, right? And we all want to believe it. And it's very challenging to do, not so much in the execution of it, but in the support of the people that are closest to you, because they don't get it either. Yeah. But I love that advice about really saving for that mid part, because, whether you choose to have kids later, not at all, there does come a point, I feel I've seen in my own life and also in a lot of my friends and professional, circles, that there is always this period of almost like, pulling back before then moving forward. And someone described it as almost like pulling back the arrow so that you can shoot farther. Yeah. And we have so much wisdom, and there is a lot of wisdom in caring for other people, whether that's parents or siblings or your own kids, and then being able to use that as your superpower in whatever you choose to do in the second part of your life. And I think that women didn't used to even get there. By the time that we were 40, we were like, washed up old hags.
It's true. And a lot of that data came out right around, COVID and, the number of women who were just exiting the workforce and, just the lack of opportunity at the level that they were previously at, or lack of opportunity to do something new and different coming back from maternity, or being at that point, where you've hit the top. Like, that's the other thing to think about too, if you're very young in your entrepreneurial journey, is that at some point you're going to hit the top. And then what are you going to do? Right. So you got to know that at some point you're going to be reinventing or pivoting or something, and just prepare for that. And, know that that's going to be the next exciting phase.
Yeah. And it's funny. I hadn't really thought about it until right now when we started talking about it, but it's very interesting to actually watch Sarah Blakely and what she's doing. And of course, I wish all of the success in the world, but in a way, it would be interesting to see that next venture is not as successful as Spanx, and see what she then does next. I mean, because she truly is someone who is incredibly resilient, and she's somebody that in a lot of ways, quote unquote, has it all, right? Successful business, incredible family. She has a gazillion kids, and she's like, has a very positive spirit about her. She's incredible, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a unicorn on many levels, right? Like it's almost not, normal, right?
It's not normal. Yeah, like it's not normal.
But at the same time, and I appreciate you saying that too, like, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a lesson to be learned in this next part of her journey, so that, we see what comes as a result of that, because that is the reality of, being a female entrepreneur, is that we go through these trials and the challenges help us to come out with something even bigger and stronger. And that's the exciting part. I think, being resilient, like you said, the word resilient is so important. Like, you can't give up. You can't get down on yourself. I talk to a lot of women about this. Like, don't let yourself get, bogged down in the past. Learn from it, move on. And the more you can stay focused and positive on what the next potential opportunity will be, the more that is going to happen for you. And that's the reality.
That's a very difficult mindset to have. And the fact when you said that before about, there's like this therapy component to what it is that you're doing, I just think that that is so incredibly brilliant because I feel like a broken record. I always say in my class, I always talk about how, for me personally, entrepreneurship, well, I say that it kicked my ass because it has. Entrepreneurship has kicked my ass. But I have learned so much about myself through the entrepreneurial journey that I didn't even know was part of it. Right. And so I do so much with these younger people to talk about like, yeah, product market fit. Yeah, solving problems. Yeah, business model canvas. Like it's all so good. But before any of that, get to know yourself.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right.
Hell yeah. And the reality is like, you are great. There is so much greatness that has probably yet to be untapped, like get in there, learn about yourself, like like self-care is number one. Like you can't be an entrepreneur if you're not doing self-care. Sorry. You can't. It's the mindset
and every aspect
is very important. Yep.
Mindset, your mental health, your physical health. I think gone are the days of the idea that the media portrays of, the entrepreneur eating pizza under their desk. And like, okay, yes, you have to work hard. You do.
I always say that person doesn't understand time management and they're not paying attention to what is good for them. Agreed, 100%. Like we can do this. We can do this in a way that works really well and is good for us.
And that's what we have to get out in the media. And that's why it's so important. Like women start businesses, grow businesses, get past that $1 million mark and tell us about how you were able to take care of yourself along the way and that you're not, stressed out, frizzed out, like a mess, but you have your shit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
absolutely
good.
Yeah. And there's such a thing as positive stress. I know it sounds crazy, but like, the kind that we thrive on, it's like the energy that you get from knowing that you're doing something amazing and there's a lot of work that has to go into it.
Yeah.
That can be a positive thing. Like I don't know what your schedule is like. Mine is crazy. This morning I started actually at 4:00 because we're launching a website. And the teams are kind of all over the place. I'm communicating with people in Europe and I have no problem starting. I love starting my day as early as possible. Fantastic. Then I go, I take my time for the gym. I do my morning meditation. I drop my kids off in there at some point to school. That happens too. And then I sit down and I get to work and I make a point to end my day when my husband gets back from work so that we can have a moment together. Recap our days, and then he'll go make dinner and I'll get back, and take care of a little bit more work as needed, spend time with the kids, come back. And if I need to, I might jump back online in the evening. But for the most part, I make sure, as best as I can that I'm wrapped up. I would say between 4 and 5 p.m. every day. And I can still run 2 companies doing that. So, it's just a matter of knowing what you're capable of, what times and when works for you. I know that I can crank out 5 times as much work if I'm doing it early morning than I could in the evening. So why not take advantage of that time? Knowing what you're capable of and making sure that your life is balanced in a way that makes you happy, then that positive stress is like, it's a good thing. It just keeps you going.
It's the energy, right? It's the energy jolt. Such great advice. And the sooner that women can recognize that you do need to take care of yourself in the way that works for you, the sooner that you can put those things into practice, the better off you'll be. And probably the it's almost like the longer that you'll be able to go. Because we never want to get to that point of burnout because that's bad. That is some bad stuff.
Yeah. I always say if it's not making you happy, you got to make a change. And I know that is, again, another thing that sounds easier said than done. But you have to make that change. I have been lucky enough to have been laid off 5 times throughout my career.
Wow.
Oh,
So you know how to do it.
And I will say maybe only one of them was, a bad experience, but for the most part, especially when you work in startups, it's par for the course, but it's always given me an opportunity to rethink and, make sure that whatever was coming next is going to be something that I truly love. And honestly, I have been lucky to have had experience that, because it's really hard when you're stuck in something that is not, a positive place for you. You're not happy, you're grinding. And all you can think about is, well, I need the income. I can't afford to do anything different. Well, the reality is you will figure that part out too, especially if you're unhappy and you move into a happy space, you figure it out. I don't know how, but it works that way.
I love that. And I'm so excited to just be able to also welcome you to the She Leads Live conference in October, an incredible panel. And, I just think that your presence at the conference is going to be so incredible for the attendees there, your wisdom, your advice. And there are also other people that have graduated from SUNY Albany that are going to be in the room and that are actually speaking. So we are churning out some really kick-ass women. SUNY Albany. That's so cool.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to tell people about how they can get in touch with you. All venture capitalists and angel investors and wealthy people that are listening, please get in touch with Melissa, because we need to support what it is that she's doing. So how can people just get in touch with you and learn more from you and all the good things?
Yeah. So welcome anybody to email me at Melissa at thefiercefoundry.com. I would say the worst thing you could do is send me a message on LinkedIn. I think I'm like in over my head there. So I don't even know I'm going to get to responding on that front. So please email me if you want to be a part of this journey at any side of it. So obviously investors, we're very, very much looking to meet all of you. There is also a form on our website for entrepreneurs who are interested in joining the Foundry. We also have a community for female founders. So if you go to our website, which is thefiercefoundry.com, you will find a form there that will allow you to provide us information, and we can either identify if it's an opportunity for a product to build or to bring you in as an entrepreneur and build one of the products that we're creating. Or if you just want to be part of the membership community, you can do that all there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending your time and sharing all your wisdom and expertise. I'm so excited about everything that you're doing. And it's just so important that women are doing everything possible to invest in other women, because I do believe that we can change the world for the better.
Absolutely. When you invest in women, you invest in all of humanity and the economy. So
I love it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a great experience. I love chatting with you and very much looking forward to the conference in October.
Okay. Thank you so much. This and all of our episodes are brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network, the podcast network for women, by women. Thanks so much for listening to the She Leads podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support us, please share it with others, make a personalized post about what you took away on social media, and please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This helps our guests and our show to continue to gain visibility and traction. To learn more about how She Leads Media helps women to gain visibility, you can follow us on Instagram at She Leads Media, or you can head on over to sheleadsmedia.com. If you'd like to network with me and other amazing women, don't forget to join us each year for the She Leads Live conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. This is the She Leads Podcast Network.